welcome to another recommendations video. Today I'm going to be recommending you some adult contemporary slash historical fiction. The reason I'm saying slash historical fiction is because some of these, like, I know contemporary obviously refers to contemporary books, however I just wanted to include a couple of the historical ones in there as well, because contemporary and historical read similar if the historical is written as a contemporary. Does that make sense? Okay, we're not talking like Alison Weir or Philippa Gregory where it's like based in Tudor times and it's that historical. We're talking like mid-1900s. That makes it sound really old, like the 50s or the 60s. So it's historical, but it's still closer to contemporary. I'm grouping them together, okay, for the sake of the video. I'm going to split this video as well. The first part is going to be recommendations, and the other part is going to be a couple that are on my TBR because I pulled them off my shelves thinking I really want to talk about these, but I haven't read them yet. So there's a couple that I haven't read, but here's the ones that I have read. Some of them border onto other genres as well, but we're just going to ignore that because we are. The first one I'm recommending is The Flat Share by Beth OLeary. This is a really fun adult contemporary that I think defines the category to a key. The postman just came. I'm sorry about the noise. This follows two characters who share a flat and a bed, but they have never met each other. It's a pretty unique setup in which one of them is there during the day and one of them is there during the night, and they end up leaving each other little notes and trying to get to know each other, yet still have not met each other, and you can kind of guess where it's going to go, but I absolutely loved this. This was a great summery contemporary. It was just fun and full of the good, warm, cozy feels you want from an adult contemporary. Bit cheeky, bit funny. Actually, it was very funny, but I just loved seeing how the relationships blossomed in this, and the setting of the flat as well felt so familiar and like my own home that fantastic. Plus, look at these fucking sprayed edges. How pretty is this? I think this is the WATERSTONES edition. Did have a hideous sticker up there telling me so, but yeah, this really good fun. This next one is kind of a contemporary, but it's also a mystery, but yeah, we're blurring the border between genres now. This is Mr. Penumbras 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. This follows Clay, who is in need of a job and ends up working at Mr. Penumbras 24-Hour Bookstore on the night shift. There's some pretty weird customers that come in. He's kind of curious as to why they're coming in and getting these specific books. He takes a look in the book one day he's been told not to, and he realises it's basically full of code. And he ends up kind of going on this journey wondering what the hell is happening. What is this code? What does this mean? What is the mystery behind this bookstore? And what is he, Mr. Penumbra, hiding? And it's all about him figuring this out. He uses his friends to help him, and I love the camaraderie between them all and how everyone clubs together and people that have never met each other come together and meet each other and become friends, and it's just brilliant. Also, this really focuses itself around marketing and coding, and like it's set partially in Google, the place. It actually says on the back it's set in Google, the place. And I just love that because as someone that works in marketing, I felt like this was a bit more written for people like myself, which I've never really read a book like this before that kind of crosses over into that world, so I quite like that I could keep up with it in that sense. It was just brilliant. I really, really, really loved this book. Then we've got The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. This follows a bookseller who runs a bookshop on a barge, which just sounds brilliant. There is a bookshop on a barge in London, and I have been there, but now I want to go back. But the premise of this basically is that he can pick you books depending on exactly what you are feeling at that time. So you might go in for a specific book, but then he recommends you a different one to kind of soothe your soul. So it's like a medication of books. And he goes on an adventure to try and find a lost love with his bookshop on a boat and someone else to come along and help on the way. I loved this book. It was whimsical and beautifully written and just felt enchanting and lovely, and I loved that we got to explore France through the setting as well and go on a little mini adventure with the comfort of books along the way, and it just kind of reflected what books can do for people, and I love that about it. You've probably seen this one recommended to me by me before, but this is In at the Deep End by Kate Davies. This is a hilarious book about a woman who is really not enjoying her sex life and then realises actually she thinks she might like women and goes on a bit of an exploratory path there to decide if she does like women, and realises yes, she does. She likes women, and she's gonna just have a lot of hilarious adventures throughout this book because it's just fantastically funny, and she has a brilliant narration style. I just really enjoyed this book. You feel like you are going on this adventure with the character as she suddenly unlocks this door into her sexual life that makes her feel so much better and have so much more fun and just feel much more herself as well with her love life in general. It's just a great book. I really enjoyed it. It's fun, it's funny, and it just made me smile and laugh a lot. This one kind of bridges into literary fiction versus contemporary, but we're going to include it. And that is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This is such a simple short novel following our main character who works in a convenience store. She's worked there for 18 years, and it is about the simplicity of her life and how she's being driven in one direction by society but wants to go in a different direction, and what those pulls do to her as a person and what that does to the path that she's following in life. Adored it, loved it, fantastic insight. This is translated from Japanese. Oh, and The Little Paris Bookshop was translated as well from German, I want to say. Could be wrong. But really, really enjoyed this one. And I loved reading about the Japanese setting and society as well, because obviously each society is going to be different throughout the world, obviously. And the pressures on her from her society are going to be different to the ones that we're used to in a Western culture. So I really enjoyed reading about this one from that angle as well. Striving semi into that historical fiction now with the Guernsey and Literary Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaefer and Annie Barrows. This is told through a series of letters as a writer gets in conversation with a book club who are based in Guernsey and formed during the German occupation on the island. And basically the writer is really interested to find out more because she wants to include them in her book, and so ends up going to meet this group of people and forms a connection with them and wants to know their story. And it's all told through letters. Like, they're all signed up. Why am I showing you? You know, there's letters, you can see, you get the idea. I enjoyed that narrative style. It made it quite a different read that was very interesting and definitely out of my comfort zone, but I really liked it. The final one for recommendations from me, and again this one is in the historical section, but you probably have heard of this already. That is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. One of my favourite books. Stupendously amazing. I listened to this as an audiobook and loved it. This is all about Evelyn Hugo as we find out about her 7 husbands, her life, the true love of her life, and it's everything. It's so good guys. Read this book, it's brilliant. My camera battery does not last very long. Okay, the next ones are books I have not yet read, and I'm going to do a terrible job at telling you what they're about. First up, we have got The Bookshop on the Shore by Jenny Colgan. This one I picked up because it's a book about books, and we know I love a book about books. But this is about a woman who is kind of overwhelmed with everything in life, so she ends up moving to the Scottish Highlands to work in a bookshop or just go to a bookshop. There's a bookshop in the Scottish Highlands, and she ends up having a story built around the fact that she's escaping her life and going to this much more secluded area. I know no more than that. I'm excited to read it because Scotland is beautiful and I'm happy to read more books about it, but also a book about books. This one I'm really not sure if it classes as historical or contemporary, because on the back it says it is the future and it is the past, so it kind of crosses between the two. But this is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, and this follows the story of multiple different women apparently throughout the past and the future, I think, as they come together from different cultures. And I'm really excited to read this one because I've heard a lot about it. I've also heard the format is a bit unusual and there's no punctuation, I think. Yeah, there's no capital letters. Okay, that'll be interesting. At the start of the sentences there aren't capital letters. We'll see how that goes. Normal people didn't have speech marks and that threw me, so it's interesting. I'm interested to see why the author has chosen to do that. But I am really excited to get to this one because, again, this isn't the kind of book I usually lean towards, because I don't know what it's fully about, but it won the Women's Prize for Fiction, or was shortlisted for a Women's Prize for Fiction this year, so that's always a good sign as well. I think this is going to be more of a literary great read as well, in the same way that The Convenience Store Woman was, so I'm excited to give this one a go. Then we have got One True Love by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Another book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, yes. This one sounds so good, and now I've picked it up and refreshed my brain of this, I really want to read this one right now. This is about a woman who marries her high school sweetheart, and he then goes missing for like some ridiculously large amount of time. She ends up remarrying, and then her husband rocks back up, or like she gets engaged, I think she doesn't remarry, she's engaged, and then her husband rocks back up years and years and years later. What the hell will you do in that situation? That is so weird, and I want to read it and understand what she does do, so this is on the list too. 2 more on the list. First up we have got Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. I don't know too much about this one because I like going to books blind, but also when I read the blurb of this one I think it more tells you about the character than it does the plot of the book. So the bottom of the blurb gives you like a breakdown of the character traits of the character. So it says, meet Queenie Jenkins, journalist, catastrophist, expressive, aggressive, funny, dramatic, loved, lonely, enough. Apparently it's a darkly comic and biting subversive take on life, love, race and family. I'm excited to read this one and go in blind to this as well. I've heard a lot of people have said really good things about this, and I do want to get to this one soon-ish because I am coming up to being in the mood for a contemporary, so this one might be the one. This one as well, like both of these I'm like, I want to read soonish. Finally we have got The Switch by Beth OLeary. This is by the same author of The Flat Share. Did I even say that The Flat Share was by Beth OLeary at the start of this video? if I didn't, the flat show is also by Beth OLeary. This is about a young woman and an older lady. I think Lena is too young to feel stuck, Eileen is too old to start over, it's time for the switch. Now I think they switch lives and just see how they take off. One of them lives in London and one of them lives in Yorkshire, I think. Really bad about this. But they switch lives and see how the other feels in their shoes, essentially. I'm unsure as to whether they actually switch like Freaky Friday style or if they just go and stay in each other's houses. I'm really not sure with this one. I think I've got the plot of this one wrong in the past as well when describing it, but I did really enjoy the flat share, so I wanted to buy this one. There's a sticker mark on the front. I need to scrub that with some soapy water carefully, but this is the last one on my TBR for contemporaries slash historicals slash I've got no idea what genre these books are. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've got any recommendations for me, do drop them down below. I don't often lean towards contemporary, but I've got a kind of specific list when I do. They're all different from each other, so I don't really know what kind of contemporary I like the best. Books about books is always a win, but yeah, hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. You can comment down below what you would recommend or what contemporaries, adult contemporaries you like. And if you want to see more of my face on your feed, you can subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep smiling and stay positive.